Hello and welcome to Taking You to School with Dr. Tom Prichard. I am your co-host, JP John Poz from the Two-Man Power Trip of Wrestling. And of course, joining me is the star of the show, the former WWE World Tag Team Champion, the former 8-time Smoky Mountain Wrestling Tag Team Champion, and one of the greatest trainers ever in the history of professional wrestling, the Doctor of Desire himself, Dr. Tom Prichard. Dr. Tom, how you doing today, sir?
John, doing great today. Knoxville's always a beautiful place on a wonderful Sunday afternoon when it's sunshine goes all the way around, man. It was great. Very, very nice.
Nice. We have just some sad news to report, of course. Melissa Coates, Sabu's girlfriend or longtime girlfriend, passed away. I don't know if you had too many dealings with her, but I know you knew of her, of course.
Yeah, I did have some dealings with her, not only in Deep South Wrestling in McDonough, Georgia, but she came to Knoxville when Jimmy Golden, James Strange were trying to run Rocky Top Wrestling. And she came in and managed me on a couple of occasions. Very nice lady, someone who was almost too nice for this business. And I ran across her in Deep South, and of course around places in Tennessee, and all throughout. I'd see her at conventions with Sabu, and she kept the same attitude from the time I met her until the last time I saw her. So I knew she loved the business. I knew she was having a good time, and she really was a good person. And she had a good time while she was in the business. I think she made the most of it, and I sure hope that uh, everyone who knew her can remember her in that way. That she was a great person and she loved the business.
It's crazy. Last year, she had part of her leg amputated, and then this. Oh man, it's just terrible. And she's pretty young too. I think, was only 50, right? I mean, she was very, very young.
Yeah, yeah, and yeah, that's the real shame of it. She died way too young, but I guess everyone, uh, I guess, dies way too young. You're, way up there in age, and it's just, I guess, where a lot of the guys and gals from that era are finding themselves today, and I'm just lucky, very lucky to be at least halfway healthy today. So, yeah, it was a shame, and I think that her legacy will help everybody who comes along, especially from the bodybuilding scene who gets into it and understands it's a different business, it's a different place altogether a lot of times, and at the same time, it's full of the same kind of people who are looking for whatever it is they're running for and searching for, and that goal and that dream. Once they accomplish that, they set something else, and don't stop until they get it. And that's the way Melissa was. So I truly believe she's going to be missed.
Was she a contract girl? I know she was in Deep South and OVW, but was she under contract or no?
No, no, I don't believe she was ever under contract, and if she was, it was for a brief time. I know in Deep South, Jody and Bill were trying her out as a bag lady or using her as a homeless gimmick down there. I didn't quite understand what it was, but that's what they were doing, and she wasn't under contract at the time. She looked good, but I don't know what the block was. I don't know what the story was why she never really became full time and got that contract. But she worked hard every time I saw her.
And then, of course, unfortunate passing of Bobby Eaton's wife and Bill Dundee's daughter, who just passed as well. Very sad to hear that at another very young age.
Very young age, very sad. I feel bad for Bill and Bobby. I feel bad for Jamie. I feel bad for, gosh, the whole family. Anybody that knew Donna. I only come across Donna a handful of times over the years, but um, she she was. It takes a special lady to marry a wrestler anyway, and she grew up in the business around her dad and saw the lifestyle, saw what, and her and Bobby fell in love. So yeah, I feel horrible. I feel bad for Bobby and Bill and Jamie especially, but anybody who knew Donna, she the times I was around her, she was a lot of fun and very nice lady. So yeah, my condolences, our condolences, certainly go to the Eaton and Dundee family.
Now, just completely changing gears because I saw you talking about it. I saw Dutch talking about it. I think Rob Naylor was talking about it. A bunch of different people were talking about Houston Wrestling 7/12/1985, a few weeks from now. The Fantastics versus Dr. Tom in white long tights, which is pretty damn rare, and Dirty Dutch. The Fantastics get the win. It's about a 15-minute match. Good match. I love the finish too. Rarely ever see that. It was almost like a leapfrog or almost tried to be a little bit of a leapfrog into the Luthez press, and the Fantastics get the win. But big ring, big pop for that finish.
Yeah, Houston and Los Angeles had the biggest rings I'd ever worked in. Then WWE came along and they were 20 by 20. I think Houston might have even been a 22 by 22 foot ring. But yeah, I saw somebody put that up, and when I saw it was Dutch and myself against the Fantastics, I said, "There's no way," because I went to the clip and I saw this guy on the outside in white, long white tights and white boots, and I thought, "No, man, I never owned a pair of white tights, never." Obviously, so, but yeah, I never thought going back in 1979 they were still bicycling tapes, which meant they would send them by bus or plane and reuse the same tape next week and just keep recycling and bicycling that tape all around the territory. And now you had some who obviously were saved. And the Houston stuff was saved for Paul Bosch, and now it's just coming out. But I never expected any of my old stuff to get out because, man, a lot of that old stuff from Los Angeles and even Southwest was cringeworthy. So when I saw that, I said, "No, it can't be me." And then I went back and watched, and I said, "Wait a minute, it resembles, but I couldn't really see." And I'm trying to remember the match, and I'm going, "Holy Christ!" Uh, so that was how I spent looking at that tweet. But the great thing about that is it came along at the right time because in July, I don't know, wait a minute, I do have the date. July at the Gathering, I'm going to be giving Bobby Fulton and Tommy Rogers a very special award, honoring them for their years of being in the business. And that'll be July 23rd at the Hilton University Place in Charlotte, North Carolina, at the Gathering. I think the dinner is about 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock. Anyway, it's on the website. Go to thegathering.com, I believe it is. And I'm sure to bring up that match too, because working with Tommy and Bobby were a hell of a lot easier than working with Tommy and Jackie. Oh my gosh! So, but it really was a lot of fun, and it jogged my memory because I thought, why in the world would I wear long white tights? And then I got to thinking, hold on, well, I was a heel, and I might have had them because I ordered a lot of stuff from K&H back in the day. Are you familiar with K&H, John?
No, K&H. Who's that?
Oh,
Who is that?
who is that? What is that? That's Carl and Hildegard Wrestling Apparel. And that's
Oh,
what all the guys used in the 60s and 70s, and maybe even in the 50s. I'm not sure when they came to origin, but they were in Ohio, I believe, Columbus, Ohio, or somewhere in Ohio. And they would send you this catalog. I got mine in the early 70s when some of the guys I found out were wrestling down at the Coliseum. They called them outlaws back then. They weren't called independents. They were called outlaws. So I sent away for the K&H Wrestling Apparel and got my first pair of wrestling boots there, my first pair of wrestling trunks there. They would staple pieces of fabric to the catalog so you could tell which is heavyweight, lightweight, and 5-0. What is 5-0, you ask? Well, 5-0 is the same pair of trunks, same design that Harley Race won his first NWA championship match with. So that was a part of trivia and history that not too many people know about, that Harley Race was wearing the new 5-0 from K&H ring attire. So just a little history, a little bit of trivia for you if you want to throw it out there and make it a card game. I'm
nice.
smelling nothing but money, man.
Nice. K&H. Nice.
Carl and Hildegard, K&H. Ask any old school guy. I've got a pair of boots, my first pair of boots, over in that shelf over there. I'm not going to go get them now because it'd take too much energy and time, and I'm not going to do it. So, but yeah, and if you look back, Mr. Wrestling 2, the spoiler, yeah, spoiler Don Jardine got a lot of his masks from K&H, but most of the generic masks back then came from Carl and Hildegard.
Hey, look at that.
Only the old school people know that.
Nice little bit of trivia there. I love it.
Yeah, sure.
So
Anyway,
as far as you and Dutch are concerned, I know you weren't a fan of teaming with him. I know that for a fact.
that we
You didn't like teaming with him, yeah.
I loved teaming with Dutch. Dutch was a good man. Dutch is still a good man. I've always had a good time with Dutch. So I love teaming with Dutch. I love being around Dutch. You talk to Dutch.
Oh yeah, of course.
Of course you do. Well, then he can't go without telling a story, and he was one of the better storytellers and one of the funniest guys in the business. Still is, but back then, man, he was he was a lot of fun to travel with, a lot of fun to talk to in the locker room. He just him along with the Armstrongs were the ones who taught me how to get along in the back and in the locker room and have fun and not take yourself so seriously because it really is professional wrestling. That's all it is.
It's a bit of a grind.
Yeah, a little bit, but don't make it such a grind. Just have fun with it, and the rest will take care of itself.
As far as today's topic and who we want to discuss, you, as far as your training, greatest trainer of all time, The Rock, Kurt Angle. We talked about Seth Rollins. We talked about Test, Mark Henry, the Brachus. Why don't we talk about another member of the Shield today? Let's talk about Dean Ambrose, aka Jon Moxley. Of course, he joined FCW. I think it was about 2011 ish. Coming off the independent scene, being a hardcore guy. What did you know about him coming in?
I didn't know a whole lot about him. I'd seen some of his interviews and promos from a bar where he was talking about whoever he was going to be wrestling that weekend. I can't remember who it was, but I just remember the intensity he had. And at that time, this was a period where transition was taking place, and there was more influence and swaying of looking at the independent guys because apparently there was more out there than we thought that had talent that was available and could be of service and be of help to not only FCW but WWE. So I didn't know about a lot of it, but there were people there in the office who did, and he was one of the guys who came up. When I saw him, one of the first matches. Let me say this: one of the first matches I saw him work was right outside of Tampa, and he did something. Just the one thing that made me think he does have a clue. And I know this is just a minor thing, but he went to scratch the guy's back. I don't remember who he was wrestling. It wasn't Seth, but he went to scratch his back, and he took his time, and he actually drug his nails down his back, and he made it intense, and he made it look real, and he was thinking shoot, but he was working. He never let anybody get in too close to him in the back. He pretty much kept his distance. He had his friends, he had his acquaintances, but he was one of those guys that he never let you know if he was on or if he was off, and it didn't matter because he was the same all the way around, which made him authentic to me. And that was the thing I saw with him. And I've heard the knocks, I've heard the criticisms, and in AEW, he's more comfortable, I guess, because that was what he was raised up on, obviously, in the other world before he got to the corporate world of WWE, and then found out that it's not for everybody. And so I know he can do it. I know he does have the talent. He's an acquired taste, and once you find that this guy is committed and believing what he's doing, then it makes sense to me. It's pretty much like Darby Allin. Darby told me about this gimmick years before he did it, and he gave me this concept, and I thought, well, that's great, but I'm not seeing it. I'm not feeling it. But I'm not the demo he needs to hit. And Darby was committed, true to himself, and love like him or hate him, uh, he is making an impact. People are coming to see him. I saw it for myself
Yep.
in Indianapolis at the convention. He had a line wrapped around. He had it. There were people waiting to see it. So it's the same thing with Moxley. Not everybody's cup of tea. He's an acquired taste, but I, I enjoyed his sense of humor. I enjoyed his passion. I enjoyed him taking it over the line when he would get to the building. He wouldn't just become one of the boys, become one of the crowd. No, he kept that barrier around him, and he wasn't going to let just anybody in. He was, to me, he was working 24/7. Even when he was shooting, he was working. So that's what I got from him, and that's why I think he's very talented.
Were you familiar with the indie background and the hardcore background, the CZW stuff, and all that stuff?
Yeah, vaguely, because I really that's not my cup of tea. That's not something I really care to delve into or have any real knowledge of because it's not it's a niche crowd too, and I'm not in that niche by any means. It takes it to me. It takes no talent to swing a fluorescent light bulb or fall into barbed wire. If you do it artistically, like Mick Foley and Terry Funk, it's a different story. But if that's all you've ever done and don't know anything else, it doesn't register with me. So I knew a little bit of it, but there were other people who knew more about it, and they had either worked for that company as well that Moxley worked with, or they had been around it and they'd seen him. So when he got there, once again, I watch people, and I watch them in the back, I watch them in the ring, I watch them how they interact, and he was one of those guys who wasn't going to compromise letting anybody get to know him any more than they really needed to. He was going to keep his private life private and a lot of his professional life private. He would come and sometimes he would do or say things that like a Terry Funk would do, who would just do it to see what kind of reaction he gets. I don't know if that's why he was doing it, but that's what he was doing. He would say something, and I don't have any examples right off the top of my head, but he was one of those guys that, like a Kevin Sullivan, if you didn't know Kevin, he could come across as a little bit crazy, and that was the way Moxley was. You know, once you got to know him, uh, you could see there was another side to him, and he really enjoyed doing what he was doing. So anybody with that commitment and that much passion, I can appreciate, whether for CZW going out there and doing that stuff. At least he got away from it and found out that he could make money doing it on the pro level, doing it on the main level, and nobody can deny that he didn't. Can't deny that he didn't. Him and Roman and Seth, they're pretty damn well they're together, and but the key to that is being happy and being satisfied. And if you're not happy, not satisfied, it's going to suck, and that's when you need to get out.
When he first gets into FCW, I was curious of this with those hardcore guys or those CZW guys, quote unquote, and they come into FCW. Is somebody saying to you, like, okay, these guys need a complete rewiring here? Like, is somebody saying that to you guys? Because it seems like that's a completely different world than WWE would be used to.
Well, as I said, this was a time of transition. This was a time of some people coming in and seeing it with a different set of eyes and a different opinion and a different idea. And at that time, when Jon Moxley and Rollins came in, I don't remember who else came from that world around that time, but when these guys would come in, the office and the people in charge were wanting outside the box, and they were wanting somebody to change it up. Whether it was, no matter what it was, they just didn't want the same old. They wanted, something new. And I guess, at least this is what I'm surmising. This is what I observed when people like that would come in, because some people would come in and the discussion would be, "Oh my God, has he ever seen a gym? Maybe great in the ring, but that's not what's really going to capture the attention that they need to capture." So they did. Moxley and Seth and Roman Reigns did capture that attention, from the right people. But uh, there was, I think, with some of us, and I don't want to mention any names, but I think with some of us, not all of us at FCW, we would see someone from the independent world and come in, and we would make a judgment call, no doubt. But then let him practice, let him get in the ring, let him do some promos, let him get comfortable for a couple weeks, and then see what they do. And with Moxley, from day one, he came on. He came in with this attitude and with this confidence and self assuredness, I guess is the best way to put it. That he could be one of the guys, at least, not just in FCW, but in WWE. He believed it, and I think that was his to his uh, benefit to have that great attitude. And was it always great? I'm sure it wasn't, but with me it was, and never had any problem with him. I remember he did show up late one time. He overslept, and he walked in, I think, 30 minutes late. And I don't. This is pretty much what I did anyway with anybody who was late. I called him in the office, and it was just him and I. Say, "Hey, what was wrong? Why are you late?" And they'd say, "Oh man, I had to get gas, or I had a flat tire, or I had to get a bagel." Well, don't be late again. That's it. But with Moxley, I walked in, and two other people followed me in. So we're sitting across the desk, and I said, "So what happened, John?" He goes, "Oh, my alarm didn't go off, and I overslept." I said, "Okay. Well, what do you think we should do?" And he just looked at me. I said, "Well, all right. That's what we're going to do then. Now, don't let it happen again." And that was it. So, look, he wasn't a guy who was chronically late. Didn't have to get on all the time. He understood. Look, don't be late. What am I going to do? Is it going to help me to find the guy, or is he going to be on time next time? Because he usually is on time. He's overslept once, and now I've got to crucify him. No. So his time in FCW and the little things like that I knew about him, with being a deathmatch guy or independent guy that liked doing the hardcore stuff, uh, it didn't bother me, because he didn't come across with that's all he could do. He could do other stuff, and he could tell a story. So, at least in FCW, he could.
With him, obviously, he did have training before from Cody Hawk, but when he comes in, he definitely has that stigma of being like a deathmatch guy or a hardcore guy. So when you're training him and you're going through, he's very easy, very coachable, very trainable.
Yeah, actually, he was, but he was he, he was mainly a project of others there as well. We had a relationship in the sense that I knew what they being the office were looking for, and I knew what he was looking for. And he had his supporters and people speaking for him, which was great. That's what you need. But um, he never showed me any sign of not having talent. He showed me that's all he could do was the death match stuff. He didn't come in like this is what I'm going to, this is the hill I'm going to die on. I'm going to stand here and declare my love and whatever for death matches. That wasn't it at all. He was ready to come in and I think, travel that new path and see what WWE held for him. Why not, man? If he'd been doing this stuff all the rest of the years, really making the money he was making, now he has an opportunity, a real opportunity, because there are people in power who are on his side and actually want to see him succeed. Uh, then all he has to do is what he's doing right now, and not screw up. So for some people, it's a tall order, and maybe it was for John, but he seemed to find the way and got what he wanted. And when it became a little too much, he said, "All right, see you guys. Thanks for the party, but it's done."
When did they start to put together the feud with like Seth Rollins? Because it seems like that was a big pairing in FCW, and that was a big feud, really well before obviously they both go to NXT and stuff. But that seemed
Right.
to be a big feud in FCW.
Yeah, I believe that was almost right away. They knew each other from way back too, and I think it was just one of those things that was natural and organic, and uh, the thing to do. They just meshed well, and that's that was helping everybody get a buzz about FCW at that time too, because we were doing pretty good houses, and the guys were getting over, and uh, I don't know if we ever drew a rating on the sports network or whatever TV was on, but I know those guys had some really good matches on there, and they were meant to be good and not to be seen everywhere. They were just meant to get some reps under their belt and get used to each other again and be ready when they get called up. So, uh, I mean, Seth and him were a natural matchup. They were both about the same size, same ability, and had charisma, and they just clicked. They worked well together.
With him, Seth, and then you add on Roman eventually. But when does that kind of formation? Is that in FCW when they start thinking about putting those two together? I know they really come together in NXT, but is there any sort of talk of like, hey, we're going to create this faction? Let's see what they got in FCW, or you have no idea about that?
Yeah, I have no idea about that because I was gone in May of 2012, and I think at that time they were still doing their thing, and it was Liaki and some other guys that they used different names. So no, I think that was in NXT, and again, I think that was a natural progression because they were all three very close and very good friends on the outside, and it translated on the inside. So kind of like the Freebirds. The Freebirds hung out together. They lived together. They did everything together. So it made sense in the ring when they would do these things. There was a connection, and people knew that.
With Moxley, what do you think about his body type? Do you think he maybe at that point? Because he was pretty skinny when he first
Yeah,
came in.
yeah. I do remember actually a couple administrators slash coaches saying he's not the kind of type Vince wants. But I knew at that time it wasn't about what Vince wants; it's about what um, whoever is in charge suggests, pushes, and believes in. Because I think this was the period he was given the opportunity to do what he saw fit and see what he can make out of it. And it was either sink or swim. And again, we would look at some of the guys that was considered to be the next big thing, or at least a big thing, fizzle out. So you won some and you lost some there, but when Moxley came in, there was a few rumblings about, man, has this guy ever seen a gym before? And then I guess he and Roman and Seth got on the road and started training together, which is what you need basically if you're gonna do this. Get on the road, get with somebody you can hold accountable and be accountable to, and get up and train. And eventually, that's what he did. But right at the beginning, you're right. It wasn't. He needed some work on his body, no doubt.
When you see that they're picking up these indie guys like him, were you surprised though? Because you're saying it's a little bit of an internal change from them picking up indie guys, picking up a guy from CCW stuff. Were you surprised?
Yeah, I was, but at the same time, I wasn't because there were new voices chiming in, and at this time, again, there was a transition taking place between FCW and Orlando, which is only natural. But there were people who would say, "I don't know, baby. I don't know if you thaw or not." And then there were other people who say, well, we're going to give the guy a chance. It was just, this is what we're going to do. We don't care what you say. We don't care how you feel. And during that time, yeah, I think we had some crossover and communication that didn't always go well. But that was what was happening during that time. That was who that was the um, shape they were moving towards. That was the style they were moving towards, and that was the perception they were moving towards. So Moxley fit everything they had in mind. And again, at that time, when they came in, you had some influential people saying, "Man, this is great shit, pal," and they bought it. So, and I don't know that they really disappointed as a Shield and as a single. Maybe in WWE it was exposed. I don't know, man. I still look at him in a way that he has with the passion I saw in Florida and knowing him from talking to him. He's authentic in the sense that he's got some stuff going on in his head, and I'm not sure we want to all see it or hear about it because it could be disturbing and dangerous all at the same time. At least that's the vibe he can send off, and that's what I liked about it. He can make you feel this way, or he can make you feel another way, and to me, that's talent.
So he goes from FCW to NXT, gets a nice little run there. Then, of course, brought up as the Shield with Reigns and Rollins, gets a push right away, involved in a CM Punk storyline, involved with a Cena, Ryback stuff. So, I mean, he gets a push right away, kind of christened as one of Triple H's guys, I
Yeah,
guess. And
certainly.
and and that doesn't hurt, right?
Well, that's what I was alluding to. I mean, when you have people say, "Hey, this is what we're going to do,"
Right.
well, okay, it's your baby, so this is what we're going to do. But yeah, it doesn't hurt at all, and that's really what everyone needs to understand is you have to have people on your side. And no, it doesn't hurt at all for the guy who's running the um, system, the program, to like you because he's going to put people in his places that he not only likes but he trusts, he knows are dependable, and can get his vision across. So, pardon me, Seth Rollins, Roman Reigns, and John Mox, pardon me, Dean Ambrose at that time were his picks. So can't begrudge them for that. In fact, you have to applaud them because they knew how to do it and they knew how to get over with the right people. And the right people aren't necessarily the ones buying the tickets, although they are. But you have to have the right people before them, like you, so that the people buying tickets can actually see you. So that's the art form again, and that's talent to get liked like that.
Out of all three of those guys, he seemed like the least likely one to be the WWE champion. All three of them would win the WWE title, but it just seems like he'd be the least likely, and he does end up winning it. I know there's some circumstances with Roman got caught with some PED, so he suspended for 30 days. Ambrose fills that spot, and he just starts feuding with Rollins. He wins the title. So I know there's a little bit more to play at that, and there's a little bit more I guess behind the scenes, but still, they give him the WWE title. I mean, that says a lot.
Well, yeah, it does, and that's really what the deal is. Uh, if you get there and you're spinning your wheels and you don't know why, then you should definitely ask. But Ambrose knew what he was going in for. Ambrose had people on his side, and Ambrose knew how to use it to his advantage. So did Roman Reigns, and so did Seth Rollins. All three of those guys. And what are you going to do? You can't begrudge those guys for going in and doing business and getting over with Triple H or Shawn or whoever you needed to get over with to get a spot and to be noticed. That's the object of the game.
They also said with him, you get your downside guarantee. He ended up making $1 million or something a couple of years, but not
Right.
because of the downside guarantee or his contract, because he used to work every single house show. So they were saying how hard of a worker he was and that he was always out there. He never missed a show. Normally, let's say, just as an example, Randy Orton, I'm taking off this weekend or what, or whoever, I'm not going to be this weekend. Supposedly, he'd be one of those guys that was at every single house show.
Well, something I really don't understand when people say that because uh, this the business was a lot of house shows years and
Right.
years ago, and everybody made those house shows, and now it's like it's so torturous that he's made every single house show. How many times did they run a night? Four or run a week? 4 times a week. I do remember 7 days a week. I do remember twice on Saturday and twice on Sunday. So and not that it's better, worse,
Much
or oh my
easier
god, no, not
schedule
easier.
now.
I'm just saying
It
it's
is.
hard no matter what. But that's what you signed up for, and getting praise for doing something you signed up for is kind of weird to me. But that's what you expected. You expected to live on the road. You expected to go out and do what you loved, and then come back and do it. Does it get monotonous? Is it more of a corporate mentality these days, and not necessarily just wrestling people and guys who never ever uh, would have an idea of what professional wrestling is, was, or really is, will be like ever in the future, are the ones running it and telling you what to do. And sometimes that can get very, very frustrating. So, of course, you have to have uh, movement, you have to improve, you got to innovate and make new things happen along the way. But the basics and fundamentals never go out of style, in my opinion. So as long as you have that, it's the other part, it's the other elements that are going to help get you over. And I return to the fact that Dean Ambrose slash Jon Moxley never let anybody know what he was thinking, never let anybody really know the guy behind the eyes. And I appreciated that. Guys like him, yeah, there's a few of them, but guys like him are the ones that won't have the best body, won't necessarily be the best promo, but when they talk, it'll come from the heart. If it's from the heart. Now, if they're giving a scripted promo and saying hokey stuff and doing hokey stuff, you have two choices: say no, or okay, but can we fix it? And if you don't do that, then that's on you. I learned that a long time ago too. Way too late and way too hard. You have to speak up and you have to have a better idea. So that's why I tell guys all the time as well. Have something when you go to the building, have something when you go to TV, have an idea to get you over, have an idea to get the other guy over, but have an idea, have more than one idea actually, and be ready to pitch it, practice pitching it, talking to them. And that's the business. It ain't what you do in the ring. That's some of it, but that's really that much. And you really have to learn how to get yourself over in the back and talk to people in a nice, professional manner, and learn how to get along. That's the best advice I can give you. And Dean Ambrose had enough people uh, backing him that he knew how to get along, and they liked him, so he didn't really have to worry about getting along. They were already wanting to get along. Um, so that's my take on that. I know he's not everybody's favorite. I get it, but I like him.
With him, world champion, IC champion, US champ, tag champ. I mean, kind of Money in the Bank winner. Kind of did it all there. I know as we kind of go through a lot of the guys, WWE has changed so much with it, like more titles are won by more of the guys, and that kind of changes. But still, pretty nice little resume from WWE. Then they tried to re-sign him, like we kind of were intimating before, and he was like, no thanks. I'm kind of done here.
Well, yeah, I think if you've reached the point that you can say that, then man, again, more power to him. That's testament to how much of a great worker he really is. I don't. He didn't need to stay. He's got an offer somewhere else. Oh my God, why not? Why not? Be independent. Yeah. But and we can talk about AEW all day long, and I have, but uh, at the end of the day you do have guys there who are at least making a paycheck. wrestling has gone so far over here on the pendulum that eventually it's got to swing back. Eventually, I don't know how soon that'll be, or if ever. I've heard people say wrestling is now roller derby, and roller derby was hot at one time too, hotter than wrestling was, and then it faded out.
Yep.
So I don't know. It's a tough way to look at things these days. When you see AEW doing what they're doing and getting the viewership they're getting. Obviously, it's a niche audience, but you have some of the old school guys and old WWE guys that some will remember and some will pop for and some will say, "Oh, well, there's that guy is." But will it sustain their viewership and make it bigger, make it grow? I don't know, but that doesn't concern a guy like Jon Moxley who can go right from WWE to AEW and get a hell of a paycheck, hell of a contract, and you can't get mad at the guy. You have to understand that's the world we find ourselves in today. It's it ain't the wrestling business that your mama grew up with anymore, man. It's sure not. Sure not the business I grew up with.
Former AEW World Champion, and obviously just had a baby, so he's off of TV for a little bit. But or his wife Renee Young just had a baby, but he'll be off
Right.
TV for a little bit. Still, though, nice little run as champion at AEW.
Yeah, yeah, that's what I mean. How can he complain, or how can anyone complain when you're getting an opportunity to go to a startup company in their first couple of years, be the world champion, be a name, be a force that's reckoned with, and be able to do what you want. I mean, the independence he has is worth it alone just to go somewhere. And I've said this before that TNA would never last a year, and hell, they lasted what 15. So
More than that,
more than that. Okay,
coming up
yeah.
on the 19th anniversary.
Wow. Okay, so TNA is Impact,
Yep,
or okay,
2002 they started. Yep.
okay. So same thing with these guys. All Elite Wrestling. Will they be around, or are they going to burn themselves out? Are they just going to expose themselves too much? I don't know. But at least Moxley's riding the wave, and who's to say once this is over, nobody else will want him because he might still be in great shape and might still be able to go. So we'll see.
I'm kind of waiting to see when or who's going to be the first guy to go back to WWE because you know
Ooh.
it's going to happen, and they're going to get a nice little contract, nice little payday. Somebody's going to do it, or if somebody's just going to jump ship, I'm waiting to see. I'm dying to see who that first guy's going to be.
Well, yeah, but I think a lot of the reason everybody's jumping ship is because of the impression or the perception that it's chaos at WWE. I don't know that things are any better or any worse at AEW, and I don't know who would want to go back though to WWE if you felt like you were mistreated or that the guys were just look. It's always been a business of there's just a few guys who get taken care of. There's just a few top guys because there's only so many slots. There's only so many places for a top guy to be and get paid. So unless they're going to pay him more than AEW, I don't think there's any incentive to leave because going back to WWE, you're going back to going back to what you're going back to because it didn't change yet, and it ain't going to change until they bury bury the coffin, and that's it.
That's a perfect stopping point for this week. And let's talk about your book, A Pro Wrestling Curriculum, Advice, Suggestions, and Stories to Help the Aspiring Pro Get to the Next Level. Dr. Tom, where can they get this awesome book?
You can go to jpwrestlingacademy.com, and on the front page, you can click that book right there and order it. jpwrestlingacademy.com. Also on that page, also on that website, you can apply for our next 12-week session of classes, which begins July 5th. We just ended our last spring class this past Friday night, June 25th. Had a great time in Jackson, Mississippi with the USA Championship Wrestling crew and Burt Prentice, and I appreciate them every time letting us come down there and have some matches and graduating into the JPWA students.
Also, you can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at Two Man Power Trip. Check out my website, tmptempire.com. And of course, for Dr. Tom, you can follow him on Twitter at Dr. Tom Prichard. Also, his Pro Wrestling Tees store. Go to prowrestlingtees.com, visit the Dr. Tom store, or go to the JPWA store. Of course, that is prowrestlingtees.com. Dr. Tom, what else you got? Personal appearance coming up. I know The Gathering, July 23rd.
Yes. I was just going to plug the gathering one more time. July 23rd, going to be at a University Place, the Hilton University Place, Charlotte, North Carolina. And that night, the 23rd of July, actually, will be the banquet. And I am presenting Bobby Fulton a very special award and thanking him for his many years in professional wrestling. Then the next day, the 24th, at the gathering in Charlotte, I'll be signing all day long, I guess, along with Stan Lane, Steve Kern, and some other guys. So, looking forward to it. And hope everybody comes out and says hello.
All right. Awesome stuff as always. Thank you, Dr. Tom. Thank you, everybody, for listening. We'll see you right back here next week for a little Taking You to School with Dr. Tom Prichard. See you next week, folks.